Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Hit right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, the Clippers' collapse is complete. But who deserves most of the blame? Bob Kraft speaks out for the first time and has his quarterbacks back. And how much of a chance do you give the Rockets against the Warriors? All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now. Good morning. It's First Take. I'm Carrie Champion, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, all in the house. Good morning, Stephen A.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good, good.
How you doing, man? I'm doing good.
You had a good weekend?
I've had better weekends, but I'm here.
Allow me to say, Stephen A.'s mom is in the hospital. I am praying for her. I am wishing her a speedy recovery so she can get back to keeping you in line for me.
Yes.
That's a lot, y'all.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. She's doing better.
Okay.
Doing better.
All right. Well, let's talk some basketball, shall we? The Clippers collapsed. I can't believe they did it. The Rockets became the 9th team in NBA history to overcome a 3-1 deficit. The Clippers are now 0-7 all-time in conference semifinals. The Clippers were poised to head to the conference finals for the first time in franchise history, but after giving away Game 6, the head and the heart of the team could not beat the Rockets at home.
So close. I don't even know what that means anymore. I don't know. Ricky Bobby, like I said, if you're not first, you're last. So being close ain't good enough.
All right, it's not good enough. Chris Paul has appeared in 65 playoff games without a conference finals appearance. That's 3rd on the list all time. Doc Rivers becomes the first coach in NBA history to lose multiple series when leading 3-1. So, Stephen A., who's to blame for what happened with the Clippers?
Very, very tough question. Obviously, when you have such an epic collapse, and it was an epic collapse, nobody walks away unscathed. Everybody knows what fans, both Skip Bayless and myself, are for Doc Rivers.
Yes.
We think he's one of the great coaches in the game. He has to take the brunt of the responsibility. He's the leader. More importantly, he's the GM as well as the head coach. We're not criticizing Austin Rivers because he showed up in this series. But when you talk about bodies, you got to remember they gave up Reggie Bullock, Chris Douglas-Roberts. They didn't re-sign and retain Darren Collison, who was a big-time backup for them last year. If you had those extra bodies available to you, then the Clippers don't look as spent as they end up looking. They looked exhausted yesterday. They looked fatigued. They looked like they didn't come to really play. I'm not talking about all of them because Chris Paul certainly came to play. 26 points, 10 assists, 4 steals. The effort, the tenacity that he put forth, he gets some blame too because you can't be a superstar, Skip, and have this kind of epic collapse and you have absolutely nothing to do with it. But he would be 3rd on my list. Number 1 would be Doc Rivers because not Doc Rivers the coach, Doc Rivers the GM. Because the GM has to recognize that you go through 82 games plus a grueling 7-game series in the first round against San Antonio, now a grueling 2nd round series against the Houston Rockets. Eventually, legs are going to get tired. Knick-knack injuries are going to enter the equation, and guys are just not going to be as vibrant, possessing the level of vitality that you need them to possess. I think that played a role in it, and ultimately, Doc Rivers has to be primarily culpable for it. 2nd on my hit list is Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin has looked like a superstar for most of these playoffs for the first 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, that has not necessarily been the case for several games. Even though that wasn't the case yesterday in terms of numbers, this dude ended up having 27 and 11 for the game. It was one of the quietest 27 and 11 performances I've seen in quite some time. When the Houston Rockets were making a run, the Blake Griffin that we've seen in all these Kia commercials, the Blake Griffin that we saw, on the victory, it was nowhere to be found. And, to stop the bleeding. And when I look at it from that perspective and you consider the fact that Houston really had no one to match up with him, then it's incumbent upon him, if you are the superstar, to step up and stop the bleeding. Blake Griffin didn't do that. So that's number 2 on my hit list. Number 3, obviously, is Chris Paul. And Chris Paul has played sensational throughout these playoffs, particularly once you consider that he had the hamstring injury. I love him personally. I think he's a big-time player. I think he reminded everybody how big-time he is. But he's also relatively limited, being 6 feet, not being athletic, not having the J that a guy like Steph Curry has. His greatness cannot be denied. But here's where Chris Paul takes a hit. You have a 19-point lead with 2 minutes left in the third quarter of Game 6, on your home court at the Staples Center. It's not just incumbent upon Doc Rivers to sit there and remind brothers this ain't over. You understand? We still have to close this out. We have to debunk history and make sure it's not applicable to us. That is also Chris Paul's responsibility. And the fact that somehow, some way, one thing to lose Game 5, it was almost predictable.
Game 5 or
Game 5 was predictable. But to then turn around, and they just didn't show up because they knew they had Game 6 on their home court.
Right.
So you were wrong to take that game for granted.
Sure.
That's more so on the coach than the point guard.
Sure.
That Game 6, the point guard and the coach are equally responsible for making sure nobody loses sight of the goal at hand. We are the Clippers. We've never been to the conference finals. We've got an opportunity to take L.A. And if I'm Chris Paul, I'm playing in my 64th playoff game at the time. It's now 65 after yesterday, and never having advanced to the conference finals. Only Thurl Bailey out of Utah and Kiki Vandeweghe. They've been the only 2 guys with more postseason games that never advanced to a conference finals. You know, to some degree, about this history, because Chris Paul's highly intelligent, very learned, well-read. He knows this stuff. You can't let them brothers take their foot off the gas the way that happened in Game 6.
All right, Stephen A. Doc Rivers said the series turned at Game 5. He felt like they were losing momentum then. Why did you feel as if they could actually turn things around on Game 7? Because you picked them to win.
Well, I picked them to win because I felt like, first of all, they were the better team. And I think for a vast majority of this series, everybody saw a team that looked like the better team. They just looked too dominant, too athletic for the Houston Rockets to contend with. And I thought they were going to close out because I had picked them to win the series in Game 6. And up until 2 minutes of the third quarter, I was right on the money, because not only did I think they would win Game 6, I thought it was going to be a blowout. That epic collapse is something I don't recall ever seeing, other than the Yankees losing to the Red Sox after being up 3-0 in 2003, which I still haven't recovered from. My point to you is that I thought it was over in 6. So I'm saying, okay, where's your pride? Where's your dignity? There's no way on earth you're going to sit up here and lose this Game 7 after blowing it. And they did that too. They just, Blake Griffin and others, I mean, emotionally, they just didn't appear as strong as I thought they would be. Mentally, rather, not emotionally, mentally.
All right.
So, you made a lot of very good points from my heart. Very fair points, and maybe mine is going to be unfair.
Okay.
But I hear everything you said about a guy I love in Doc Rivers, about a guy I've tried to come to love in Blake Griffin. I thought for a while he was the best player in the playoffs. Agree with your fourth quarter points. I thought J.J. Redick stunk it up yesterday when they most needed him. Shot 2 for 9 from 3 with 6 turnovers, 3 in the first quarter. That won't get it done. Jamal Crawford, they leaned so heavily on him to come in and just change the game. And he made 3 out of 9 from 3 yesterday. So all those, it's just not good enough. And I do want to credit the Rockets for hanging in until they finally caught fire. And when they caught fire, it was just too much for this other team. But this is just me, again, from the heart. The man most responsible for this all-time ugly collapse was the man. It's Chris Paul. That's just me. I get you about Doc, and I'm trying to be fair because I'm a big Doc fan. So maybe it's 50-50, but I'm going to go 60-40 Chris Paul here. I hear what you say, and I've tried to really let it sink in that he's only 6 feet tall. Allen Iverson was only about the same size. Is that fair? I think they're pretty close, right, in height? And maybe Chris Paul needs a little more AI in him sometimes. Maybe he's too much the point guard, because when you say he doesn't have a J, listen, when I'm rooting against Chris Paul, every time he goes up to shoot, I think, that's good in these playoffs. He was out of his mind shooting the basketball.
But I didn't say he didn't
playoffs.
have a jazz.
No, I know, not Steph's.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
But for a while in these playoffs, I thought he did have Steph's J. Every time he went up from 3, I said, that's good. That's in. Okay, maybe he needed to shoot more. But look, I'm back to where we were a few months back on the show when we went back and forth about. Remember, I said CP0, and I know that's harsh, but we were having fun with it.
Right.
He has 0 rings because he's never, as you know, even been now to a conference finals. That's 10 years in this league. Age 30, never been to a conference finals, so I'm saying CP0. But I'm back to what we argued about before. We need to officially drop the super from his tag because he's not a superstar. I can't give you super. I get it. He's made, what, 8 all-star teams? So most people would consider him a superstar, maybe in part because he makes superstar commercials. Those are great commercials, seriously. This is one of the longest-running commercials we've ever seen in the history of this league, right? Okay, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Although, sometimes I think that guy Cliff Paul, that alter ego, I think there's too much Cliff in him. Sometimes when they need him the most, we need a little more edgy Chris Paul. That guy who occasionally has a little low blow here or there. I wanted to see a little more of that guy in this series when the going got really tough for this team. But he's a star without the super in front of it because a superstar, to your point, does not allow his team to lose 3 straight games to a clearly inferior Houston Rockets team by a combined 46 points in those last 3. 46 points you lost to them. And a superstar does not allow his team, as you point out, at home to blow a 19-point lead late in the third quarter of a Game 6, a closeout game. You just don't allow it. I don't know how you do it. You just don't allow it. If you're a superstar, you close that deal. And a superstar does not allow his team, which was favored to win by 2 points yesterday. So on the road in Houston, they're favored by 2. So Las Vegas is saying they're a little better, maybe considerably better. You don't allow your team to trail from wire to wire. They were never really in that game. I know they cut it to 3 at one point, and then if we could see that video, remember what happened next? The Clippers as a unit, defensively, they allowed James Harden to dribble the ball up the floor and go right down Broadway, remember that play? Yeah. And dunk it? That's a 3-point game right there. And all of a sudden it's a 5-point game that becomes an 8-point game when Josh Smith, the next possession, hits a big 3. Well, that was the end of the Clippers as we knew and were trying to love them, right? So, in the end, look, Chris Paul is a great leader of the Players Association, right? That doesn't translate always into being a great leader of a basketball team. I get you about the bench. That's a very fair point. I could say the same thing about his New Orleans teams, which I thought had a good enough starting 5 to go deep into the playoffs. But when Gennaro Pargo's about all you got coming off that bench, remember those New Orleans teams, the Byron Scott teams?
When you're going against the Lakers.
And the Spurs. The Spurs beat them in Game 7 at New Orleans. Chris Paul had a good game. Look, his numbers in these playoffs, his numbers overall in his playoff history, they've been, dare I say, very good, maybe close to great numbers, but they don't come at the right times. So hence, to your point about he's played in 65 playoff games, his playoff record now, superstar, 28-37. There's something missing there in the psyche. I don't know what it is, but something's not right because you should have closed this deal if you're that good.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you took the position that you took, and I'm not here to disagree with what you're saying. On its face, you make very valid points. But let's make sure that we distinguish the difference. I call him a superstar point guard. You're judging him as a superstar player. There's a difference between superstar players and superstar point guards. What I mean by that is simply this. Yes, Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons lost to Jordan and the Bulls, but it was after they got the 2 rings. But after they got the 2 rings, they weren't the same team anymore that they were before. They were starving for it because it had evaded them for so many years. What I'm saying to you is that when that kind of stuff transpires, yes, you have to have the catalyst. You have to have the leaders. But you also have to have the soldiers, the troops that are ready to go to war with you. If you are a point guard, I don't care how gifted you are, you're not going very far if your other troops don't show up, because physically there's only but so much you can do. Chris Paul could get to the free throw line. Chris Paul could make shots. Chris Paul could drop 25 to 30. But as a guy also responsible for running the team, if the other guys don't show up, you're in a world of trouble. Matt Barnes has got to show up. You said it, J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick is a reserve. I love J.J. Redick, but he's a reserve. He's not a starting shooting guard. He's a guy that comes off the bench.
But there are a lot of games where I said, wow, that's really good.
That's why I said. I said he's an elite reserve. But as a starter, there are some days he's going to come. For example, you'll relate to this, Vinny the Microwave Johnson. Remember how potent he was, how beautiful he was? But guess what? He came off the bench as a reserve for a reason, because he wasn't as consistently reliable as Joe Dumars. When you're playing that two-guard position, I need to be able to pencil you in under the worst of circumstances. You're going to help take me to the promised land because I can rely on you. When you are a point guard, a miniature one, not one like Magic who's 6'9", and all of a sudden can go into the post and can drop hooks into the lane and can get to the free throw line and can see over everybody, and he's already the ultimate visionary. I'm talking about the quintessential prototypical point guard. Remember, Steve Nash never played in the finals. Why? Because as elite as Phoenix was, all right, or even Dallas with Dirk Nowitzki, a younger Dirk Nowitzki, you're a point guard. And so when you're 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", but you ain't Russell Westbrook, or you ain't a healthy Derrick Rose, you are limited. So when I say superstar point guard, I'm thinking about what your title is, what your job description entails, and how do you hold the mustard for your position. I agree with you. I think superstar, no, I don't think Chris Paul. I think LeBron. I think Kobe. I think D. Wade. I think guys like that. Kevin Durant, Russell of course, Russell Westbrook. But when I say point guard,
I'm with you.
That's what I do.
Okay, but there's something as a leader of a basketball team, when you have a 19-point lead at home, I don't know what buttons you push. I don't know what it's almost what you do off the floor as much as on. It's almost as much as what you say during timeouts. Blake, I'm going to get you the ball. You take us home. You know, you're going to get to the free throw line.
Like
whatever
what you
it
saw
is.
in Game 7 against the Spurs. That's what you saw. That's where he was.
Or Isaiah years ago, he gives John Sally, always tell me this story. He gave John Sally the ball. John Sally, Mr. Levy said, you do it again.
I'll let you make your point.
That's it.
I'll let you make your point.
Right
but who else is a superstar point guard then? Well,
Steph Curry's a superstar point guard.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get the difference. He's not a superstar. He's a superstar point guard.
He's a superstar point guard.
And by the way, on Isaiah, and I know a lot of our younger viewers aren't real sure about it, but
leader, warrior.
I thought he was a great leader, and I still thought he was a better scorer than he was a point guard. That's just me. There was more two in him than
that's
one.
That's not just you. Most people
when it was
agree.
When it was time, Isaiah could flat out take over the game shooting the basketball.
That's why Chris Paul's on the list. He's 1 and 3 on the list.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets. Let's give them some shine. Houston Rockets against the Golden State Warriors in the NBA's Western Conference Finals beginning Tuesday in Oakland. Golden State swept the regular season series. It's first postseason meeting between the two teams, and the Warriors have an 82% chance of winning the series. That according to our Basketball Power Index. So Stephen A, it's MVP versus the runner-up. How much of a chance do you give the Houston Rockets to actually take the series?
Houston has a legitimate shot. I still believe they will lose the series, but they do have a legitimate shot to win. You can't ignore what you witnessed from them. We all, especially me, owe an apology to the Houston Rockets. I certainly slept on them. I did not believe they would win this series against the Clippers. I knew they would win Game 5.
Okay.
There's no way in hell I thought they would win in Game 6, and they shouldn't have won Game 6. But I got to give them credit. They took it with James Harden on the bench. A second unit came in and went on a 49-15 run against the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay? You can't take anything away from the Houston Rockets. Trevor Ariza had a big-time game yesterday afternoon. He sat up there and shot 6 of 14 for the field. Hit 6 3-pointers for crying out loud. You look at a guy like Corey Brewer. He came, does 11 points off the bench with pivotal. James Harden, he's deadly. My only issue with James Harden is that he's sensitive and never gets over stuff. But he's a big-time player, okay? And when I look at him, what makes him so deadly, Skip, is that Yesterday, for example, 7 of 20 from the field. That's 35%. Ain't nothing impressive about that.
No.
But the 31 points are.
Yeah.
Why? Because the dude hit 15 or 18 free throws. And guess what? We're sitting here shocked. He should have had 34 because he usually doesn't miss free throws. Okay? So, I mean, the 3 that he missed was shocking in and of itself. This dude finds ways to beat you. And what's gifted, what's special about James Harden is that he literally beats you while also helping you beat yourself. Because he gets you in foul trouble while he's doing this damage to you. It ain't just that he's scoring. He's literally getting you into foul trouble. And he's nipping away at the nucleus of a team's defense because he is in constant attack mode. So all of those things being considered, when you look at Golden State, I think about somebody like Dwight Howard, 16 points, 15 rebounds yesterday. Dwight Howard is going to be key in this series because Dwight Howard, even though Andrew Bogut can defend, that's what he's there to do.
He is.
If Dwight Howard shows up to make and earn his $88 million, that to me is the X factor in this series because James Harden with the Corey Brewers and the Trevor Ariza's of the world, they're going to be going at it with the Klay Thompsons, the Steph Currys, the Trevor Ariza's. The X factor is Dwight Howard. He is supposed to dominate in a series like this. Up-tempo, running the floor, getting some fast break baskets, etc. Don't judge him about the block shots because most of the Golden State shots are going to be perimeter shots. So he ain't going to get for so many block shots. But Dwight Howard, based on running the floor alone and the fact that he's going up against Andrew Bogut, Dwight Howard had better have a good series. If he doesn't have a good series, Houston has no shot. This particular series is on Dwight Howard.
You trust him?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. I trust him enough.
Well, why are you looking at me?
I trust him enough to potentially push this series to 7 games.
See, are you going
Not
there?
to win.
You
Not
going
to
7?
win.
You going Warriors
I'm
and 7?
stuck between 6 and 7, but I'm definitely going with the Warriors.
You're going 6.5 games in this series. It's going to go. Maybe 7?
Right now.
Okay.
Right now. Warriors win, though.
I give Houston 0 shot in this series. I'm going 0. I'm going 4-0 in the regular season, and I'm going sweep now.
Wow.
I'm going 4-0. And I know it's almost impossible to beat a team 8 straight times in 1 year, but that's what I think's about to happen. I think the real Rockets are closer to the team that lost 3 of the first 4 to the Clippers, and those scores were by 16 with no Chris Paul in Game 1. Remember that? By 25 in the next game and 33 in the next loss. So those are the 3 losses. By 16, no Chris Paul, 25 and 33. I think that's the real Rockets. That's just me. And we are about to see in full display the best defensive team in all of pro basketball in the Golden State Warriors. And we're going to talk about Mark Cuban's apology tweet a little later, so I won't get into that. But everybody's apologizing to the Rockets today, right? Everybody on our network, I've heard everybody. I apologize. Even on NBA TV last night, everybody was apologizing.
I didn't expect them to go this far.
I know.
Can't take away from the fact that they're in the conference
I
finals.
get it.
Yeah.
But to Mark Cuban's tweet, actually the quotes that led to the tweet, they are very predictable. A lot of times it's just James Harden and James Harden and James Harden dribbling and dribbling and dribbling and pick and dribble and dribble and dribble. And maybe he gets the call, because mostly he does get the call and gets to the free throw line, or maybe he doesn't. But this team is going to take James Harden out of what he does. And I agree with you. The X factor is Dwight Howard. I don't trust him against this team on this stage at this time. This team is playing at an extremely high level. I know Steph struggled after he got awarded his MVP, and once he shook that off, they were devastating against Memphis, even at Memphis. So I'm going to go on, look, the Rockets have to be a little mentally worn out here. So Golden State will win the first 2 games at home, and then we'll see what happens when it goes back to Houston. And I think they're so mentally toasted right now from everything they had to climb out of in the previous series that I think you're going to see them revert back to the early Rockets against the Clippers, the team that lost by 16, 25, and 33. That's just me. I think it's going to go that way. Golden State's rested, and they are ready for this.
Well, sometimes when you're rested, that disrupts your rhythm just a little bit. I mean, the fact that Houston's been playing and the fact that they've been getting such good production from its bench means that they're in a flow. Yes, they're not rested, but they're not exhausted. They're hyped and ready to go.
Don't know. Maybe they are.
I don't get that. I certainly didn't get the impression.
Well, they got
the
to
last
turn
week
right around.
I promise you that.
It's tomorrow night, right?
It's going to be really true. Well, they probably lose tomorrow night, but I'm just saying I'm of the mindset that Houston is a team. They could lose this series in 5. They could lose it in 7. There's no question in my mind because, again, Golden State could walk into Houston and steal one. They walk into Houston and steal one. It ain't coming back to Houston for a Game 6. I don't see them coming back from a 3-1 deficit against Oklahoma. Against Golden State. So I don't see that happening. But again, styles make fights, and I think that the brand of basketball that that Golden State plays, it can work to Houston's detriment one night, Houston's advantage another night. But Dwight Howard has to be consistently dominant in this series, or your prediction will hold true. He's got to give him something. They're not supposed to have an answer for Dwight Howard.
Pats owner Robert Kraft is speaking out for the first time since the league gave his team the largest fine in league history. He was asked by MMQB.com if Tom Brady told him he was innocent. Kraft: yes, because we had the discussion. If you did it, let's just deal with it and take our hit and move on. I've known Tommy 16 years, almost half his life. He's a man, and he's always been honest with me, and I trust him. I believe what he told me. He has never lied to me, and I have found no hard or conclusive evidence to the contrary. Kraft went on to say that the league doesn't have any real evidence that can connect his quarterback to underinflated footballs. Kraft called it, quote, ambiguous circumstantial evidence on the Pats. Skip, I'll start with you first. Do you believe Kraft believes Brady?
I do. I've told you that several times before, and I applaud Robert Kraft for making a very powerful statement to Peter King. I respect Mr. Kraft, I respect Peter King, and I respect Tom Brady. Let me reiterate, this is an owner that you respect as one of the top in the business, right?
I adore the man.
Adore the man. Okay, so Stephen A. Smith says, I adore the man.
It's true.
I respect the man. This is a shrewd operator who made a ton of money in business, and he's been respected as maybe the best owner in the National Football League, at least one of the top few. Is that fair to say?
I think he's the best.
He's the best, okay? So, to me, Robert Kraft has a reputation he's risking that's equal as an owner to Tom Brady's as a quarterback. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
If you're number one in your category, I think Tom Brady's number one in his category. So this man, as I told you, had a whole week before he went to Phoenix for the Super Bowl to conduct his own Wells investigation. And I'm thinking that, I'm figuring that this quote came from that week before the Super Bowl, that he immediately sat down with Tom Brady and had the same conversation that I've had with some confidants of Brady that they had with Tom right away. Hey, if you did it, it's not the end of the world, no big deal. Just take the hit, apologize publicly. People might even like you more if you apologize for this. If you fudged it a little bit, just say we fudged it, we didn't know any better, we forgot what the exact, you could say a lot of things that would have softened the blow with you because you didn't even think the offense in and of itself is that big a deal.
I didn't.
And Tom Brady is telling confidence, I didn't do anything. I am 100% innocent. He told his owner, 100% innocent. So the quote here is from Bob Kraft. He's a man, and he has always been honest with me. I'm banking a little bit on Tom Brady's reputation, as it's been told to me by a lot of people who've worked with and around Tom Brady, a lot of ex-players. I've never heard a discouraging word about him. I've never heard that he's a gray area guy or that he can be a little dishonest or disingenuous occasionally for the sake of football or the team. I hear straight up 100% good-hearted, pure guy. So I'm thinking if he told his owner eye to eye the week before the Super Bowl week, I'm 100% innocent, that inspired Bob Kraft to land in Phoenix, march right up to that podium, was that on the Sunday night they landed, and say, hey, NFL, you are going to owe us an apology if you're wrong about this, and you're going to be wrong about this. So he continues to escalate the war on and I use that word loosely, but the internal war on the commissioner that we all believed that he supported as staunchly as any owner, Roger Goodell. And I continue to be told by insiders in the Brady camp that this is a war on Roger Goodell, that they think this isn't so much about the integrity of the National Football League and cheating. Maybe it's about the commissioner's integrity here, too, because he swallowed hook, line, and sinker, in their view, the Wells report. And they think it was connecting disconnected dots, as we've talked about, that it was purely circumstantial. And in the end, that circumstantial, he made up stand up in the court of NFL law and of public opinion, but it will not stand up if this ever gets to real court, to United States of America court, and that's where Tom Brady wants to take it. Now, Mr. Kraft was asked, will you participate in a lawsuit against the National Football League? And he said, I won't say yet. He said he's still carefully considering his options here, but he has carefully considered what he's risking with his reputation and Tom Brady's reputation, and he's saying, I believe him, and I believe him.
I'm glad we're having this conversation face to face as opposed to me being on the road, because I feel the need to be in front of your face when I say what I'm about to say. Because I think that my position has been a bit convoluted, primarily due to me, not you. So let me be very, very clear. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Kraft in terms of what he feels about the outcome. I do not disagree with any of his points. I do not disagree with the animus that he feels clearly at this particular moment in time towards the NFL, nor do I disagree with the unwavering support that he has shown for Tom Brady. And I certainly will not question the legitimacy, the veracity, the sincerity of what Robert Kraft feels. We have spoken on several occasions on the record, and there are conversations that we have had off the air. I respect this man. I admire this man. I would dare say I revere this man. That's how much respect I have for him. You don't hear me throwing around that word very, very often. He's like E.F. Hutton to me. When he speaks, I listen. Okay. That's how I feel about Mr. Kraft. That is not to say that he's flawless. That is not to say that he doesn't make mistakes, but I would never question his integrity. I believe that when Spygate transpired, he didn't know a thing. And when he found out about it, he let it be known. It better not happen again on my watch, otherwise, Mr. Belichick, he will not be here. He did not fight those sanctions,
He
did not fight those sanctions. In this particular situation, I have no doubt that he believes his coach and he believes his quarterback. I got news for you, Skip. I'm not calling Tom Brady a liar. I believe Tom Brady knew those footballs were deflated. But I believe it was an ongoing thing that was probably par for the course. He never gave it a second thought because he's been doing it for quite some time. What's the big deal? I don't believe Tom Brady said, I want it at 11 or 10 or whatever, as opposed to the 12.5 PSI. I don't believe that Tom Brady did exactly that. But I do believe that you knew the footballs were deflated. Which brings me to why I have a problem or an issue with Robert Kraft's position. Because Tom Brady was feigning ignorance to it all. The 4-game suspension, the $1 million fine, the confiscation of a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick, I think primarily is due in large part to Tom Brady's behavior during the investigation. Not just what he didn't tell us, but what he wasn't willing to do with Ted Wells during the investigation.
Although,
I believe,
point of order, you said you wouldn't have given up your cell phone either, right?
Yes, I wouldn't have given up my cell phone. But if you had asked me for specific emails to show you relatable to the topic while acknowledging that you're not trying to take my cell phone out of the room, you would literally take me at my word if I said to you, here are the text messages or the emails that I'm showing you, and I'm going to sit right here, I'm not leaving the room. I would have shown those. Now, you're not taking my phone. You do whatever you want with it. Oh, no. You don't need to see what's on my phone. Oh, no. That's not going to happen. But if we're sitting right there,
you can have mine. You can have mine. Completely. I'll give it to you right now. You can have it.
Call me a bad dude.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at my cell phone.
All right.
I'm Cheshire Ted.
Next point.
Okay. I would have shown you the text messages or the emails.
And I could trust that?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what Ted Wells said.
That's what Ted Wells said.
Hold on, that's what Ted Wells said.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying. That's what we only can go by what they said, Skip.
Okay.
That's what he said to us publicly. So my point to you is that if you're Roger Goodell and this notion that there was some kind of witch hunt that existed, that the NFL was really looking to paint a level of guilt, Here's where I jump off ship, which is what I've been trying to tell you and what I would respectfully say to the great Mr. Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
This is the NFL. You know this beforehand what they're going to do. You were one of the owners who empowered Roger Goodell. You were one of the 32 owners who stood front and center with Roger Goodell against the Players Association during collective bargaining negotiations that bestowed this power on them, because I understand that they didn't fight, you had other priorities, and that wasn't the priority during collective bargaining negotiations. There's over 1,800 players, there's just 32 owners. They could hold out. You're after the money, you're after, health insurance, you're after all of these different things. But in the end, you lost this fight in collective bargaining. There is nothing about what Roger Goodell and the NFL is doing or has elected to do that should catch you by surprise if you are Mr. Kraft and you are Tom Brady. So you're right, Mr. Kraft, in closing. You're right. When you sit there and you talk about circumstantial evidence, are we going about are we judging by the aroma of this thing? The penalty may be unfair, excessive. You may have a point, but there is no denying that Tom Brady and the Patriots brought this on themselves by how they elected to conduct themselves during the investigation. You knew what was coming because you know these people in the league office. You should have guarded better against that. That's my point.
Okay, my point to your point is, you're talking about the appeals process, which gives Roger Goodell full power to appoint himself to head the appeal,
Not just the appeal process. I'm talking about the whole process, the investigation, Ted Wells, then Roger Goodell with Troy Vincent. I'm talking about all of that.
Judge, jury, executioner, Roger Goodell.
You know this.
Okay? Which is why I think these guys, Kraft and Brady, consider the upcoming appeals process nothing but charade. It's just window dressing until the big stuff hits. And that's the lawsuit.
Sure.
Because you can take it out of Roger Goodell's court and you could put it in the highest court in the land if it comes to that, right? That the NFL cannot control, or at least we are not sure. We don't think they can control.
The only point I'm going to make in closing is this.
Sure.
Each and every single one of us, particularly here in this country, work at a job where we don't necessarily always agree with rules and regulations.
What?
We don't always agree with the punishment that's handed down. But you know what we have to do? We have to eat it when we sign on to be a part of it.
What if you're 100% innocent?
Well, you think I don't know how that feels? The point is that you still have to own it because you work for somebody else. Now, Mr. Kraft is different because he's one of the owners. But Tom Brady, please,
okay,
you're a quarterback.
Right.
You're not Mr. Kraft.
Okay, this is cut and dry, black and white. Either the footballs were inflated to regulation or they were underinflated and you were cheating, right?
It's not that cut and dry to me because I don't believe the 4-game suspension, Skip, is because of the deflated footballs.
Right.
I think in part it was because of how they elected to conduct themselves during the investigation.
I didn't see any quotes from Tom Brady, and I can't wait for Brady to be interviewed by Roger Goodell, because all I know is that he wouldn't give up his cell phone. That's the lack of cooperation that we're talking about.
I will say this to you. The longer it takes Tom Brady to speak, the more his credibility dissipates to me. My God, you have nothing. You're called a liar and a cheater.
But that's
your daddy, your owner, the public, the city of Boston, Foxborough, the state of Massachusetts. Everybody's speaking up for him but him.
You're imposing your rules and regulations on him. Your mindset.
You do that every day.
Well, I'm just saying, he doesn't operate like that. He's operating in, I'll take you to court, and I'll have your job, Mr. Goodell. That's what he's saying.
Because he, to me, is going under the guise of, you think I'm guilty? Prove it.
Okay.
As opposed to, there's a difference between asking somebody to prove your guilt and you proclaiming your innocence.
Okay.
It's two different things.
Okay, you just used the word a couple of minutes ago. He's feigning ignorance. That indicates he's lying, right?
I don't want to.
Okay, that's what you said. Feigning ignorance.
I believe he's lying if he says he didn't know the footballs were deflated. But
Is it possible?
That's all.
Many people in this country have leaped to the conclusion that Tom Brady cheated when in fact he did not cheat.
Yes, that is true. That is possible. But all I'm saying, Skip, is this: take out the word cheating for a second. Don't tell me a quarterback didn't know the footballs were deflated. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you one more time. It's highly possible to me, only to me, I might be the only one who believes this, that Tom Brady routinely told those equipment people, I want my footballs inflated to the lower end of regulation. I like them a little softer than an Aaron Rodgers who likes them inflated to the top level.
Fine. But then when the issue of deflated footballs is brought to your attention, don't laugh it off on WEEI.
Sure.
Don't sit there and have a press conference.
Regulation? Yes.
Don't sit there and look at the public and go like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no knowledge. Stop.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Magic Johnson attended Game 6 at the Staples Center with his lovely wife when the Clippers were poised to close out the series and prepare for the franchise's first trip to the conference finals. The Clippers gave the game away and could not finish the deal in Houston, missing their chance to make a historic run. Magic Johnson posted the following on Twitter. Let's take a look. He says, I thought the Spurs taught the Clippers how to win. After a tough 7-game series, I was wrong. The Clippers, still the Clippers organization will always remember not closing out the Rockets in Game 6 at home. That game will always haunt them. Here's the question. Inbounds or out of bounds? Stephen A., you first.
Well, it's inbounds. It's inbounds because the collapse is so devastating, of such epic proportions, that it will take the Clippers nothing short of a berth to the NBA Finals to get over what transpired. You used to find a reason to celebrate them getting to the playoffs. You found a reason to celebrate them getting out of the first round. It doesn't mean anything now. Even if you went to the conference finals next year, it'll be the first time in franchise history, and to some degree it's going to make amends. But understand the opportunity that was lying before the Clippers as we speak. The Lakers are an atrocity, primarily because Jim Buss is at the helm. Kobe's on his way out. There doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel as we speak, other than Kobe Bryant's swan song, the final year of his career. You got a $2 billion owner. I told you, sources told me, the Lakers will possibly be sold within the next 3 to 5 years because you have some members of the Buss family that want that to happen, even though Jeannie's holding on, don't really want to do it, okay? But you see the money. I mean, if the Clippers got $2 billion, could you imagine what the Lakers could get? I mean, the Lakers? So you got people that want, the Buss, and they want to cash in, they want to make some of this money. So you've got all of this going on. They are in flux. They are as close to dysfunctional as anybody in the NBA this side of the New York Knicks. Okay? So because of that, you got the $2 billion, the owner that bought the team for $2 billion. He's worth about $30+ billion. Okay? You got a great coach in Doc Rivers. Not his greatest day-to-day, but he's still a great coach. You've got CP3. You've got Blake Griffin. DeAndre Jordan, who I believe they should keep together, by the way. You got all of this, and you are en route to the conference finals, and you collapse. You had an opportunity. I'm not going to say you're going to ever take L.A., because L.A. will always be Lakers Nation, but you really, really had an opportunity, greater than any other opportunity you've ever had, to really cement your own footprints in the city of Los Angeles. And not only did you blow it, you blew it after teasing. They did everything but bring the damn ropes out for them to celebrate.
They did.
And that's how close you were. And you blow it, it's devastating. So for Magic Johnson to highlight it, not only was it not inappropriate, it was more than appropriate. It was justified, it was accurate, and totally understandable, because if you Magic, no matter how much respect you have for the Clippers, you want it to remain a Lakers town. You're willing to concede if it doesn't happen because he's class personified, but you want it to remain a Lakers town. And the Clippers gave you that privilege. They just blew it. Magic Johnson, it was absolutely positively the right guy to say what he said. The only thing that would be more justice than that is if Magic would have turned around and put together a group and got the Lakers.
Yep.
Which we hope.
Oh, you better hope Magic get the Lakers.
We hope.
Yes.
I hear everything you just said. Allow me to put Magic on the couch just for a moment here to examine psyche, heart, mind. Look, I believe it gave Magic Johnson great satisfaction to tweet that last line of the first tweet that we said. Clippers are still the Clippers.
Yep.
I think it made him smile hugely, and we know he can smile hugely.
You are correct.
Look, he likes the Clippers. He respects the owner. He roots for the Clippers in part because it's kind of the right thing to do because he's an Angelinian or Angelino. Angelino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know,
Magic Johnson is Los Angeles.
He is Los Angeles.
He really is.
But again, the right thing to do, politically correct thing to do here of late was to sort of put a toe up on the Clippers bandwagon. After all they went through last year, Magic was very supportive. In fact, he was sort of in the middle that triggered all that with the photo and all the.
You're
right.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
But look, this man bleeds purple. He is a Laker for life. He likes the Clippers, he respects them, he roots for them, but he loves the Lakers. And it is killing his soul what has happened because of Jim Buss to his Los Angeles Lakers, for which he can't contribute anymore. You know, he can't have a say in it. He's on the edge of it now. He's on the periphery of it, right? So, again, is it fair? It's inbounds for Magic to do it. Is it a fair statement that the Clippers turn back into the Clippers? Depends how we define turning back into the Clippers. Because let me just point this out. Since Chris Paul arrived with the Clippers for the last 4 years, do you realize they've had the third best record in the NBA in regular seasons?
I did not.
Third best behind Spurs and Thunder, then Clippers. Well, that's pretty great, man. I mean, that's 4 straight years. Obviously, they've been better than the Lakers through that run. And they're now a bona fide contender. But it's not the Clipper curse that kicked in, because the Clipper curse would have been in Game 7 with 5 seconds to go and you're down 1. Blake Griffin dribbles the ball off his foot and goes out of bounds. That's like a curse play. You know, that's like a Chicago Cubs kind of play. Oh, my God, it's a Bartman, you know, whatever. But in this case, they just completely collapsed over the last 3 games and lost the 3 by a combined 46 points. You can start to talk no heart. You can talk no intangibles up here, no leadership from Doc and CP3, whatever it was. You can talk about a lot of things, but I don't know if they turn back into the old Clippers. This is a new way the Clippers collapse. That's just me.
Well, you can look at it that way, and that's a very valid point, because the old Clippers, they would have been devoid of expectation of anything good.
To start,
you know, that this is clearly not that. But where the line the Clippers are still the Clippers comes into play is, number one, you're still second-class citizens to the Los Angeles Lakers.
No doubt.
Number 2, and more importantly, the primary reason why is that when all else fails, something will go wrong. Something. Because you're the Clippers, what can go wrong will when it comes to you. That's what the Clippers personified.
Okay, but not one certain thing went wrong. Everything went wrong,
So
right?
you put Magic on the couch. Was it inbounds or out of bounds?
Inbounds. So I'm okay with them saying that. I'm just trying to analyze where he's speaking from, what his heart is.
And what I'm saying to you is that he's the one person that statement should have come from.
Yeah.
Because he speaks. Let me tell you something right now. If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, do you know how lucky you are today? If the Los Angeles Clippers advance to the conference finals,
it would have been over.
Playing the way that they've been playing, yes, the Laker Nation would have been Laker Nation.
Yeah.
But everybody would have been talking about your superiority and the Lakers' inferiority. Because of the manner in which the Clippers went down, you're actually more of a sad story than the Lakers right now.
At this moment.
Somehow, some way, despite winning 56 games, despite being a top 3 seed in the Western Conference, despite being one of the final 8 teams playing, you are considered a worse story than the inept, atrocity known as the Los Angeles Lakers. Somehow, some way, the Lakers are breathing. And let me tell you something right now. The Lakers got to capitalize off of this stuff. I'm dead serious about this. The Lakers, you got to get the billion, because it's got to be a billionaire group that can compete with Ballmer in some capacity, a Bill Gates or somebody, and just let Magic be a part of the deal. Let Magic run the Lakers franchise. And let me tell you something right now. The Lakers, please. They will reclaim that city.
But really quickly,
So,
the Laker fans were very nervous.
Yeah.
Because they really truly thought that they were about to make it to the conference finals. You had it right when they said it. They were nervous.
I got to tell you, even though Lob City turned into Sob City, the barbershop talk in Los Angeles, at least in the area, it will last one day about the Clippers' demise. If the Lakers had lost in this fashion, it would last weeks, because it would be the end of the world if the great Lakers teams had lost.
I got news for you. In the barbershops in L.A., and I go to a couple.
Yes, you do.
Let me be clear. It wouldn't last one day right now because of how the Clippers went down. If just losing would be different, it's how they lost. This is going to stay for a long time.
There's a next to this. Like, next?
You know the other thing is?
Just on to the next story.
Well, you know what the problem with that is? The commercials, whether it's Chris Paul with State Farm, whether it's Blake Griffin with Kia, or whatever the case would be. It's this ambiance. L.A. is so beautiful. It's just this ambiance, like, the sun will shine tomorrow. Everything's going to be fine. And the Clippers can't allow that to happen. Chris Paul won't. He's going to be miserable for a long time. We can't see Blake Griffin chilling like it's all right.
Robert Kraft told MMQB.com that he was willing to accept the Spygate punishment because the Pats were wrong. He says, last time, there was no dispute about the facts. The team admittedly said what happened. It was illegal to videotape the opposing sidelines. And in the end, we admitted it and took our penance. This is very different. In 2007, we did something and acknowledged the fact of what was done. This is an accusation of wrongdoing without proof. And that is why he and his quarterback are fighting back. Joining us now to discuss Kraft and Brady is our coach, NFL analyst Herman Edwards. Such a pleasure to have you here.
It's good to be here.
We'll get to the Lakers in a minute.
Yeah, well, how about our Lakers?
What about those Lakers? All right.
How about our Clippers?
What about those Clippers? We'll get to that. Tell me your take on Brady and Kraft. Obviously, Kraft defending his quarterback. How do you see
Well, and he should. But if we really look at the clock and rewind it, I thought from the beginning of this, it got handled wrong, in my opinion.
By whom?
By this organization, period.
Okay.
And I thought as a head coach, you realize when you have to go before the microphone and talk about a subject like this that is under investigation, the first conversation you have is with the owner and say, look, how are we going about to do this? Because there only needs to be one voice. And there needs to be one time that somebody speaks on this. And the next time we speak on it will be after the ruling. But when you look at what really transpired, Coach went up there and spoke. Then he turned the microphone over to Tom Brady. And Tom Brady spoke. And Coach had to come back and speak on the scientific evidence. Then the owner spoke. This is an organization, you really do your due diligence. They don't talk. They don't ever say anything. It's like they're the hush people. They had full conversations before the ruling, and I'm going, there should have been one conversation. If it's Bill Belichick or Mr. Kraft, you go before the microphones and say this, run an investigation. With that being said, there's something that happened under our watch. It's being investigated. Going forward, we have nothing else to say. Whatever the league determines, we will understand and we will deal with it at that point in time. That way, Tom Brady never has to talk. Mr. Kraft never has to make his statement before the Super Bowl. And we don't have all this. It goes away. Now, when the ruling comes out, then you can talk. As Mr. Kraft has spoken, hey, we don't like the ruling, that's fine. But when you look at what has gone and how it just went from layer to layer, it's almost like, really, why are they doing all this talking? Just one person say something. And if Bill would have went there and says, my players won't speak on this matter, Tom Brady should have never spoke. He should have never talked about it. He didn't have to. Let the investigation take place. And then come out with your evidence after the ruling and say, this is the situation. We're going to fight it. They didn't do it that way. In my opinion, my humble opinion.
Do you think Tom Brady should be defending himself?
Well, if he says, I don't know nothing about the footballs, yeah, he should defend himself. That's what he's supposed to do. And the owner's supposed to believe him. Now, I do believe this. If Tom Brady, I'm not trying to speak for Tom. If Tom Brady sits there and tells an equipment guy after practice, hey, when it's cold, I like my balls to feel this way. I like them to feel, this is nice right here. Can you get them to feel that way? Not knowing that they were deflated to an illegal limit. That's all he had to say, to be quite honest. And then it's up to the guys that are dealing with the balls to come back to tell Tom Brady, hey, Tom, you know what? These balls are under deflated. We can't put them at that level. Now, I don't know if that took place or not. But if that takes place, we're not even talking about this right now. It's a fine, it's whatever it is, and we moved on. But now we're talking about an organization that we got a Hall of Fame football coach, we got a Hall of Fame owner, we got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and we're talking about shenanigans. What's going on? Who this? And everybody's taking it. It's a mess. And it's an embarrassment to the National Football League, in my opinion.
Right.
It's a flat embarrassment. It really is. I mean, we're talking about deflated footballs when it could have been put to bed the first time. Now we come out and we talk about it. That's just my humble opinion.
My turn or your turn?
You go ahead.
Coach Edwards.
Yes, sir.
I have one direct question to ask you. Are you assuming Tom Brady is guilty as charged?
I'm assuming this, that those balls were not at the proper level.
They're below the PSI level, okay?
How they got there, I have no idea.
Okay.
And I'm not saying Tom Brady told somebody to do it. I do know this. The guys that handle the footballs right now, after what Mr. Kraft said today and said previously, they don't have a job.
Okay, they do have a job. They are just suspended without pay.
Why are they suspended?
Okay, that's
the question I want to know. Because if it's scientific evidence, then why are they suspended?
Okay,
they did no wrong.
That was the one point you and I didn't discuss to open the show, because Peter King directly asked Mr. Kraft, why are they suspended, and he had no comment to that. So that's a fair point. That's an objective point from me to you. And what I know a lot of people have fixated on this. Then why did you suspend them? If they were honest in their jobs, why did you suspend them? Every big organization, every big operation in this country, when it's under fire with a controversy, the way you normally do business is to suspend the employees in question without pay. It's done in all walks of life.
Right.
You suspend them without pay until you get to the bottom of it. So I'm assuming that happened. I also could assume that Tom Brady told them exactly what I keep telling him, that he constantly told his equipment people, I want my footballs inflated to the lower end of the regulation PSI. There's a range in there. Aaron Rodgers says he likes it near the top side. Okay, there's a range in there. He never said, this is possible the way I view it and what I've been told by his confidants, he never said deflate them below the regulation limit. Just keep them at the lower end because I like them a little softer. Okay? If he said that, he might be innocent completely as charged here.
But Skip, you make a great point about organizations and about what companies do. But let me ask you this. When the game's over, and my good friend Stephen A just said it, about the Clippers. Look at what happened. Guess who has to answer the question? Head ball coach. Head ball coach. Head ball coach got to answer. Head ball coach didn't play. He didn't play. But they lost. Head ball coach is sitting there with the press conference right now. Okay, when this happens on your watch as the head ball coach.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, here's it. You can't say, well, I'm suspending some guys. I'm going to cut my players because they didn't play good. Whoa, head ball coach. It don't work that way. It's like, what happened? Let me exhaust myself to find out what happened so I can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay, I'm going to hand off to you, but my last comment to your opening soliloquy was, I don't care what they said as an organization. I only care at this point what they did or did not do. That's all that really matters. I get that you say it's mishandled. You're talking about image is everything, speaking is everything. In the end, all that matters in a court of law is what they did or did not do. Go.
First of all, Coach, I respectfully disagree with you when you say Tom Brady should not have spoken.
Okay. That's fine.
I am one of those people who believes that your personal life is your business. I don't want to hear about your woman, your wife, your kids, your family, unless you want to talk about that stuff. You know, as long as you don't end up in a police blotter, it's none of my business. I truly feel that way. To each his own. All right, and by police blotters, I mean police blotters, or it could be you get suspended for something. You know what I mean? Suspended for somebody to leave, which isn't a police blotter, but a form of enforcement. As long as it's not that, it's none of my business. But everything about the game is our business because you are not playing for free and you're not asking people to watch for free. They come to the stadium, they pay to be there. They watch on TV, cable, whatever, they pay to watch, etc. You making money hand over fist. I'm looking at it from the perspective, this is about deflated football.
Yes.
The person who I believe should not have spoken until after the investigation was over was Robert Kraft. It was not necessary for him to come out and say, I want an apology. I know he takes it personally, lived in Boston all of his life. You understand, with the exception of going away to college, bought the franchise 21 years ago, 4 titles. This man is an iconic. I get it. It's personal to him. But in hindsight, maybe he should have waited before speaking about it and saying that I'm going to want an apology from Roger Goodell, because he personalized it. And it is personal to him, but it may not have been personal to Roger Goodell up until that moment. But there is no question in my mind. The one person I want to hear from more than anybody is Tom Brady, because Tom Brady's the quarterback, because Tom Brady's the one touching that football. And I don't need a bevy of questions. I don't need an hour-long press conference or a 45-minute interrogation. I want the answer to a couple of questions. Did you know the football was inflated, and did you have anything to do with it being inflated? Yes or no? That's all I need to know from Tom Brady. You can't hide from that. And the fact that so many people stand up and are like, why did Tom Brady say anything? I don't think Tom Brady has said enough. I don't think that he has been emphatic enough in his eyes until now. Now, I understand now we bring in the legal system. The reason, I'm going to say this again, and you can appreciate this, and I heard you on Mike and Mike this morning after I had to hang up the phone. You talked about how collective bargaining-wise, well, you know what, you got to prioritize, and there's 32 owners, 1,800 players, they're not going to stand together. We all know that. But it clearly wasn't a priority for you. I'm not saying it should have been. What I'm saying is own it, accept it, embrace it. We all have to. You work for the NFL. You know what they're going to do. You know if you avoid them, if they believe you've repeated the investigation, if you don't comply and capitulate to their strong suggestions, what they're going to do, you don't get to turn around and whine about it afterwards when you knew what was coming. That's my issue.
How do you know what Tom Brady did or didn't tell Mr. Wells?
I'm only going by what. Listen, you have to accept this, Skip. It's not just about the Wells investigation. I'm not saying forget that, but it's not about the Wells investigation. It's about what Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent clearly interpreted it as being.
Okay.
So they are clearly interpreting as Tom Brady wasn't cooperative. They clearly stated that. That's what they're saying.
What if he was? What if he told them exactly what he's been telling Mr. Kraft?
If you're Tom Brady, based on what you've known the NFL to be, based on the Players Association hiring a lawyer every time they pass gas, for crying out loud, they're hiring lawyers to go up against the NFL. You trying to tell me nobody anticipated that Roger Goodell and the league office would be partial towards the Wells investigation and what it implied?
That they paid $5 million for?
Okay, that's fine, but you didn't know that? Okay. All right, so you know the $1 million, $5 million. You didn't know that? You knew that going into it, and you still didn't capitulate. Why?
Okay.
You know it.
Real quick. If you're Mr. Kraft and you have a whole week before Super Bowl week, there's an off week in there, and you go sit down with your quarterback, and as he said in the statement, I've worked with this man for 16 years, and I find him to be nothing but honest. He's never lied to me. And you look Tom Brady right in the eye, and you say, hey, if you did it, let's take our hit and move on. You can apologize. It'll be fine.
Last point. Very uncomfortable to say, but it needs to be said. Aaron Hernandez told Robert Kraft he was innocent too.
Right, but again,
one has nothing to do with the other. I know, but I'm just talking about people lie to folks all the time in professional sports.
16 years with Tom Brady. 4 Super Bowls. He hadn't won the 4th.
I'm not comparing Tom Brady to Aaron Hernandez. Please don't take that wrong. Please don't take that the wrong way.
But no one does Robert Kraft trust more on a professional level than Tom Brady. And he looks you right in the eye and he says, Robert, Mr. Kraft, I didn't do it. I'm 100% innocent. Would you not go to quote-unquote war with Roger Goodell of that? I would.
Yeah, but once he makes his ruling, not saying that I'm going to demand an apology before the investigation is finished.
Final word?
Yeah, final word is, why were the guys
fired? Suspended.
Suspended.
Yeah, why?
Well, maybe they'll be brought back.
Well, they shouldn't have been suspended in the first place.
Why?
If they did nothing
again,
wrong.
that's how companies operate.
No, this is the National Football League.
Okay.
You don't cut the player because he made a bad play.
Well, it's highly possible that they did it on their own. They went rogue and they deflated the football.
No, you know what?
It's a different argument.
I was born at night, but not last night. That ain't working.
Okay, so before the Rockets took on his Mavericks in the first round of the playoffs, Mark Cuban said there is, quote, no more predictable team than the Rockets. And that's not a very good team over there. Well, after the Rockets advanced to the finals, yesterday Cuban decided to tweet this. Congrats to the Rockets. Got to admit, I was wrong. A lot of guys stepped up. Congrats, More. All right, so Stephen A., how surprised are you that Cuban apologized to the Rockets?
Not surprised at all. Cuban's a man's man. If he's wrong, he'll admit it. It's rare that he believes he's wrong, so it's rare that he'll admit to anything like that. But when on a rare occasion that he does recognize that he's wrong, he's man enough to admit it, and he's to be commended for it. None of us are infallible. All of us are prone to make mistakes. I certainly made them with the Houston Rockets, and it was good for him to admit that he made the mistakes himself, even though I think it was more a product of the Clippers' collapse and the Rockets actually winning. Nothing takes away from the fact that they are in the Western Conference Finals, and they deserve a lot of credit. What I would hope that Mark Cuban does moving forward is that he's got to, it's almost like, and it's not a criticism per se, because I think he's a fantastic owner, but it's almost as if to some degree, Skip, he like took his foot off the gas just a little bit once he won that title. To invest so much money, so many resources into elevating the Dallas Mavericks franchise into the public conscience. He did such a phenomenal job of that.
Well, he did go and get Rondo. I thought that was a
I'm just saying, he went and got Rondo, but I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that we still didn't think they were going to win a title. We thought that they had improved at a position that was important.
Yeah.
But in terms of Dirk Nowitzki and the twilight years rapidly approaching, you got a guy like that who is clearly a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest shooters we've ever seen, one of the greatest scorers, and Mr. Clutch as well. He clearly wasn't what he used to be, and just having the great coach that Rick Carlisle is, having a guy like Monte Ellis. We all know that Monte Ellis can play and he's good, but was that going to be enough, particularly in the Western Conference, for you to legitimately win a chip? Losing Tyson Chandler before you brought him back, you might not have wanted to do that. Some of the moves that they have made, Mark Cuban, it almost got to the point where it was like, all right, I invested all of these years. I put a lot of money, a lot of resources into this. We got our championship. I'm not going to let us fall off the map now, but it's all right to take a step back. I'm not saying that's literally what his thinking was, but that's the impression that you got watching the Dallas Mavericks, as opposed to somebody who legitimately was going for it year after year after year with that level of vigor. Even after Avery Johnson was coaching them and took them to the NBA Finals and they lost to Miami, he never took his foot off the gas, because the Mark Cuban that you saw feverishly chasing that chip didn't appear to be the Mark Cuban, that same Mark Cuban, once he captured it.
I'm not sure I agree with you about that.
I feel
Except
that way.
maybe
I've always
he
felt that
loved
way.
Dirk too much. If you say he stayed too long with Dirk,
But I don't think he stayed too long with Dirk. I don't think you get rid of Dirk. I think that you get Dirk some quality help. I'm talking about championship caliber help.
Yeah.
I think you do that.
Well, I told you just a year ago, the best series the Spurs got played was Dallas in round one last year when Spurs won the championship. It went 7 games, and I was like this the whole time.
Hey, listen, with the exception of 2012, 2013, when they went 500 at 41-41, they won over 50 games pretty much every season. I give them mad respect. It's just that I thought that the same Mark Cuban that existed before.
Okay, so back to the apology. I was very surprised that Mark Cuban apologized, because I didn't think he really needed to. I'm with you, and I think we agree about this. The Clippers lost this series more than Houston won. That's just my step-back perspective. And his original quotes that triggered the apology were correct. They are, the Houston Rockets, the most predictable team in the National Basketball Association, because they're basically a one-trick pony. It's James Harden, dribbling, pick, dribble. He gets to the free throw line. Sometimes he kicks it out. it's not that hard for a good defensive team to defend. And I think he's going to have a lot of trouble against the Warriors because of that. So Mark Cuban's his original view of the Rockets was correct, but the Clippers imploded more than obviously the Rockets just seized control of the series. That's just me, so I don't think he needed to apologize.
Well, I got to tell you this. The only thing that I would disagree with is that when you talk about predictability, let's not act like that's a big deal in basketball. You knew what Magic and the Lakers were going to do. Did you stop it? You knew what the Boston was a bit diverse because one day it would be Larry Bird beating you, another day was McHale, another day was Paris, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge. But the Philadelphia 76ers was Moses Malone, 4-5-4, and Dr. J. You knew what they were going to do with the Pistons. You knew what they were going to do with Jordan and Pippen.
I know, but
you knew what they were going to do.
These Rockets don't have Magic and Kareem and Worthy.
I'm talking about the issue of predictability in the sport of basketball. It's very few it's very few smoke and mirrors. It's really about, this is who I am. I'm a bad boy. What you gonna do about it? Can you stop me? Steph Curry, we know that brother's gonna shoot some J's, but what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? We know the Splash Brothers are what makes this and what stirs this cup. What you gonna do about it? That's all I'm saying. Basketball predictability. Mark Cuban leaning towards that. When the Dallas Mavericks won the title, we knew where the ball was going. We knew when money time was around, when it was time to hand somebody the ball and say, take me there. We knew Dirk was going to get it. Miami, LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh. What y'all going to do about it? They couldn't do anything because it's Dirk Nowitzki.
You left out Ray Allen. But
Ray Allen, too. But I'm just, that's the first year. Not the first year against Dallas. I'm just talking about predictability. Predictability. It's about what you're going to do about it in basketball.
Conference Finals, Warriors, Rockets. Again, the Warriors have an 82% chance of winning that series. Skip says it'll be a sweep. We'll see, shall we?
ESPN Radio. With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Since joining Twitter last Thursday, Tony Romo now has over 133,000 followers, and he's only posted 2 tweets. Why are we talking about this? I don't know. Simply posted the number 9, presumably referring to his jersey, and his second tweet was the following. Take a look. Looking back on it, it was a catch. You guys know about that. We've never discussed that on this show. How long do you believe Tony Romo can stay on the Twitter and keep his account up and running? Skip?
No, I want to hear what Stephen A. says. I think he's going to own Twitter.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why would y'all even ask me this question. It has much to do about nothing. I could care less. It wasn't my question. It certainly was not my question. The Dallas Cowboys are as irrelevant as they get.
Irrelevant?
Listen,
after that catch?
I will say this to you. I did promise, particularly after Jerry Jones made me so proud. You know.
Oh, you did.
I said I'm not going to be very kind to the Dallas Cowboys.
You did.
But here's my thing. It's May, man. I don't care about the Cowboys right now. The Dallas Cowboys, look, they had a really good season. They won a playoff game. Okay? That's what they did.
Should have won 2.
If this were anybody,
maybe 3 or 4.
You know what? You know what? Baltimore won a playoff game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, Indianapolis won a playoff game.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. You know, Seattle won a couple of playoff games.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the big? Did Green Bay won a playoff game?
Look, the Cowboys are back. Back from the desert.
What does that mean?
You know, what he keeps pointing out, they'd won 1 in, what was it, 17 years?
Okay.
So they're back. They are the Cowboys again. They're the Wow Boys.
You know that Romo was the quarterback, really started quarterbacking this team in 2006. You know, when he lost the snap in the wild card game against Seattle. I mean, other than that, I mean, what do we talk about here? That was their 4th playoff appearance in 9 years. In 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and 2 playoff victories and we're making a big deal.
But
it's like
that's all ancient history now. They are back.
Well, Skip.
They are official. They are a legitimate.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me
ask you a question. When you talk about the Dallas Cowboys being back, aren't you talking championships?
Mm-hmm. I am.
When have they ever been there with Tony Romo?
Next year.
We're there with Tony Romo. Well, next year is the future. In the past involving Tony Romo, when have they ever been there?
Well, obviously never. They would have been there last year if that play had been ruled correctly that we just saw.
Really?
Yeah, because they'd already won at Seattle, so they could have won at Seattle. Could they have beaten the great Tom Brady? Probably not. But at least they would have participated in the Super Bowl, which would have set up this coming year's Super Bowl for them to go back, right the wrong of the loss to the Patriots.
I would tell you this, I would love for the Dallas Cowboys to beat the New England Patriots for the Super Bowl. That would be phenomenal. I would love that. That would be a box office attraction for the ages. I would love it. You know, Tom Brady and the Patriots. Tom Brady and the Patriots with something to prove. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, finally validating such claims for themselves, such labels.
You couldn't get any rest. Could you imagine?
What you want me to say,
You'd be
bro?
a wreck.
I would be a wreck.
You would be a
wreck.
Yeah. Well, I want you to say that Tony Romo will be just fine and dandy on Twitter.
Why?
Like he will be a star on Twitter. You think he's going to step out of bounds or fumble?
No, Skip. Here's what I think about Tony Romo. When everything is nice and quiet and fine, he'll have a few one-liners to say, and then the second stuff gets a bit tight, and he starts getting scrutinized. He'll swear off Twitter. Just like, I mean, you know, this is what happens.
So you're saying he doesn't have thick enough skin for Twitter.
Right.
Oh, very interesting.
But he is classy. He's not going to sit there and go off on anybody. But he will drop a few one-liners here or there. Outside of that, he'll quit. He'll quit Twitter. That's what he'll do, because at the end of the day, he's going to render it insignificant in the grand scheme of things, which is a roundabout way of him saying, you know what, I don't need to be distracted because this stuff is affecting me and I don't need it to affect my game. That's all it's going to be. He needs all the help that he can get because, look, in the end, he's been there for 9 years, man. He's got 2 playoff victories. It's embarrassing that we finally, we continue to find reasons to talk about this. It really is. It's mad.
You know what?
I have no problem with this. This is mad.
It's mad.
That your cowboy hate is so great right now that it has inspired me to follow a second person on Twitter. And I don't know why I didn't think of this last Friday, but I should have followed 2 people last Friday, because why shouldn't I follow the man who helped make Tony Romo a championship caliber quarterback this past year?
What?
Why shouldn't I do this?
You're throwing up the X?
Why shouldn't I?
What?
I got it up right here. Check this out.
That means
ready?
You're following Dad.
Are you ready? Here we go.
This is what. This is what.
I just did it. I'm now up to 2 on my followers. This is Romo to Dez. I can't have Romo without Dez.
This is what we've come to.
Oh, for sake.
It's news on the show. Because Skip goes like this. Because Skip goes like this. You know, I mean, listen. And I'm conflicted because I love me some Dez Bryant.
I know you do.
I love me
That's
some.
why I want to put you in a conflicted position.
It's not conflicted for me because Dez Bryant is worth following. Dez Bryant, I mean, I love me some Dez Bryant, and he deserves his money, Jerry Jones. Give Dez Bryant his money. But I will say this to you. I'm just waiting for you for the trifecta. Because does Jerry Jones have a Twitter account? Because you'll be following him next.
Does he have a Twitter account? Can we find that out, folks?
Good Lord have mercy. Let me tell you something. If Jerry Jones gets his Twitter account, Jerry Jones gets a Twitter account, trust me, we'll have this scene again.
He does have a Twitter account. I just found out from the powers that be.
And you haven't followed him yet? That'll be
I never get on it.
Nope, I won't follow Jerry.
I don't know why.
I won't follow Tony to Dez, Dez to Tony.
There's no Dez or Tony Romo without Jerry Jones.
I would have followed DeMarco if you hadn't turncoated on us and gone to Philadelphia.
They didn't pay him his money.
Oh, he could have taken less. A hometown discount. Home state discount. How about it?
The league MVP and the runner-up will face off in the Western Conference Finals when Steph Curry takes on James Harden. Curry broke his own record for most three-pointers in a season and led the Warriors to a franchise record 67 wins. Harden was second in scoring this season and led Houston to 56 wins despite several Rockets being injured. Game 1, Oracle Arena, tomorrow night. Is this a chance for Harden to prove he was the MVP? Skip Bayless.
Yes, it is. And Stephen A. Smith helped me memory-wise here. You brought up a week or so ago on the show that earlier in the playoffs, James Harden, if I could use this word, was a little deflated about not winning MVP.
That is correct.
And his heart wasn't in playing for a little while earlier, right?
That is correct.
Right.
That's what I was told.
Heard that from several sources.
Yes.
So I would think this is a great opportunity for this man, not that they always go head-to-head, but to outplay at least Steph and his team to the point that he dramatically impacts and maybe changes public opinion about who should have won the MVP. Mm-hmm. To me, they're very different players because I looked at the regular season stats. Steph does his damage, as we all know, from the three-point line. James Harden does most of his damage, to me, from the free throw line. So during the regular season, James Harden scored 407 more points from the free throw line than Steph Curry did, while Steph scored 234 more points from the three-point line than James Harden did. So it's a big swing, but actually James did far more damage from the free throw line than Steph did. So you'd say it's slight advantage James Harden. So if he can continue to get to the foul line the way he did against the Clippers, which is about 10 or so a game, I think he was just over 10, well, as we know, he's going to make 90-some% of them, 92, 93%, maybe 95 or 7%.
Almost 87% for the regular season.
Yeah. So, again, if he can get the calls consistently, and we don't know how that's going to go from crew to crew, I think he can do more damage from the free throw line in total points, as we saw yesterday in Game 7, than Steph can do from the three-point line. Do I think that James' team can outplay Steph's team? I do not. I'm standing by what I said. I think it's going to be a sweep. But I also think that if he was, so to speak, deflated by finishing second in the MVP, this is a tremendous opportunity as the underdog to step in here and outplay your rival.
I agree with you. I would tell you, but out of sheer respect for James Harden, the one thing that we need to recognize is that this is the only thing he has left to prove. That he's going to show up when the games really, really, really count. At this level. He's been in the conference finals before. He's been in the NBA finals before. In the conference finals against the San Antonio Spurs, if I remember correctly, he put on the show.
He was
absolutely spectacular. In the case of the NBA finals, not so much. And I never got on him because of his lack of numbers. I got on him because he wasn't willing to attempt them. I never got over the fact that as much of a sharpshooter as he was wide open on a few occasions, wouldn't even shoot. That boggled my mind. But this is a guy that's averaged better than 25 points all 3 years in Phoenix. This is a guy that shot better than 37% from the three-point line. This is a guy that shot 88% from the free throw line. Is shooting 93% from the free throw line in these playoffs. Even though his numbers are down, what I would say to you, Skip, is that when you point to the level of productivity he has at the free throw line compared to from the field, in terms of comparing him to Steph Curry, understand that in certain respects, James Harden deserves a lot of credit for that because, again, you're creating contact and getting a lot of people in foul trouble. So even though he's only shooting 42% from the field, in the playoffs, the bottom line is he's getting to the free throw line, average of more than 10 times a game, and he's hitting better than 93% of those free throws. So that's considerably harder to do. Whereas Steph Curry, being a sharpshooter that he is, it's not easy for anybody to make perimeter shots, but it's very easy for him, and that's what he does, and you're not going to get fouled most of the time shooting perimeter shots. And so because of that, and because Steph Curry can pull up from 30, literally, you're not getting touched most of those times. You're not getting contested most of those times because there's not a guy all in your face while you're pulling up from 30 because it's hard to imagine you're pulling up from 30. And so that's what it is. And so I just look at it from that perspective and I say, hey, James Harden's got an ideal opportunity to prove himself, but it's only as it pertains to this MVP category. And to him, he's already a superstar. But to him, solidifying himself as somebody you can rely upon as the lights get brighter and the moments get bigger. But he's already proven up to this point he is a legit superstar in the NBA.
My bottom line is that Steph shoots threes like they're free throws.
He does.
That's true.
Ernestine and I watch all 5 Jeopardies from the week in a row on Friday night. We do it every Friday night. It is my favorite show. I am here to tell you, I have never, ever been more impressed with Aaron Rodgers than I was last night. Aaron and I share one thing and one thing only in this world, and that is our love for Jeopardy. He missed final. That's fine. He still won. Way to go, Aaron.
So, Skip, how impressed were you with Roger's performance?
Stephen A. Smith, you know Ernestine as well as I know Ernestine. In fact, I think you talked to her more than I talked to her, but that
might be true, but you know her better.
Yeah, I do, I hope.
Right.
But on Friday night, I kind of wished I didn't know her better because she hurt my heart. At the end of this episode, she was raving about how well Aaron Rodgers did, and I said, well, I'm impressed with his knowledge of the Bible. He was really good in the Bible category, but in general, he answered a bunch of absurdly easy questions going up against two really lame opponents who didn't know anything.
What do you mean?
And Ernestine is saying, I thought he was great. And I said, don't tell me that Aaron Rodgers is great.
I'm going to stop.
You're betraying me. You sound like you
belong to that
guy.
Yeah.
You would think that somebody that spends so much time with me over the airwaves every weekday would learn something from me. It does not matter whether she's right or wrong. Are you trying to tell me you're going to let Aaron Rodgers get in the way of you going home?
It did that night.
Yeah,
What's the matter with you?
We got into it.
What's the matter with
Come on,
you?
Ernest,
I've taught you better. Stop it. Don't you look at the camera and talk to her like that. This is not about Aaron Rodgers. This is about Ernestine. Watch your mouth. Skip.
Oh, boy.
Skip. When all else fails, look at me. Ernestine's talking. You might disagree. Take notes. That's all.
Just like that?
That's it.
I never have done that. One time.
I don't think you have that in you.
No, I don't have it in me.
He don't have it in him.
They're talking to you. You right?
Yeah.
He may not want a minute. No, he can't.
Yep.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth
Happy
it.
wife,
Let
happy
it
life.
go.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.